Hello and welcome to the Divorce Lawyers podcast, brought to you by DivorceLawyers.ca. I'm Deepa Taylor, and today we're diving deep into the complex issues surrounding common law separations in Ontario. Whether you're currently in a common law relationship, going through a separation, or just curious about how these relationships are treated under Ontario law, this episode is for you. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore various advanced topics related to common law separations, including the definition of a spouse, spousal support, property claims, and much more. Before we begin, a quick reminder. The content we discuss today is meant for informational purposes and should not be taken as legal advice. If you're dealing with any of these issues, please consult one of our family lawyers by visiting DivorceLawyers.ca. Now let's get started. Understanding who qualifies as a spouse is crucial when discussing common law separations. Under Ontario law, a person can be considered a spouse if they have lived with their partner continuously for at least 3 years, or if they have a child together and are in a relationship of some permanence. However, this definition has evolved over time, particularly with landmark cases like Clymans v. Latner. This 2020 decision by the Ontario Court of Appeal highlighted that continuous cohabitation isn't always necessary. In that case, the couple did not live together full-time, but were still considered spouses because they were engaged, had introduced each other to their respective children, and held themselves out as a couple. This case underscores the importance of the relationship's nature and the intentions of the parties involved. It's essential to assess whether a person qualifies as a spouse under the Family Law Act before moving forward with any claims in a common law separation. Next, let's revisit the topic of spousal support in common law relationships. A common question that arises is whether being married makes any difference when it comes to spousal support. In Ontario, spousal support for married couples falls under the Federal Divorce Act, while for common law couples, it falls under the Provincial Family Law Act. Despite the difference in legislation, the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines are used for both married and common law couples. These guidelines take into account factors such as the length of the relationship, the roles each partner played during the relationship, and the financial circumstances of both parties. Whether you are married or in a common law relationship, the goal is to address any economic disadvantages or imbalances that may have arisen during the relationship. It's also important to understand that the longer the relationship and the more integrated the couple's finances, the more likely spousal support may be awarded. The presence of children and the ages of the parties upon separation are also critical factors in determining the duration and amount of spousal support. One of the most complex and contentious issues in common law separations is property division. Unlike married couples, common law spouses in Ontario do not have an automatic right to property equalization under the Family Law Act. Instead, they must rely on equitable principles to seek a share of the property. This is primarily done through trust claims. For example, one type of trust that is often invoked in these situations is a resulting trust. This occurs when one person transfers property to another without receiving anything in return, creating an implied obligation for the recipient to return the property or its value. A common scenario might involve one partner contributing to the purchase of a property, but the title is in the other partner's name due to credit issues. The contributing partner may claim a resulting trust to recover their contribution. Another significant concept is the constructive trust, and more specifically, what is known as a joint family venture. A joint family venture occurs when both partners contribute to the accumulation of wealth in a way that goes beyond typical cohabitation. The Supreme Court of Canada, in the landmark case of Kerr v. Baranow, identified 4 hallmarks of a joint family venture: mutual effort, economic integration, actual intent, and the priority of the family. These factors help determine whether both parties should share in the wealth accumulated during the relationship. Property claims can be highly fact-specific, and the outcome can vary significantly based on the circumstances of each case. In some instances, the courts may consider the value of the property at the time of separation, while in others, the value at the time of trial may be more relevant, especially in cases where the property has appreciated significantly. As it stands, Common law spouses in Ontario do not enjoy the same property rights as married couples. This disparity has led to calls for legislative reform to provide greater clarity and fairness. Some legal experts, including the late Phil Epstein, have advocated for changes to Ontario's Family Law Act to extend property rights to common law spouses, similar to what has been implemented in British Columbia. Reforming the law could reduce litigation and provide a more straightforward process for common law spouses to claim their fair share of property. However, such reforms must balance the need for fairness with the recognition of the distinct legal commitments made by married couples. Finally, let's touch on the emerging area of tort claims in family law, particularly the new tort of family violence. In a recent case known as AA vs. BB, the Ontario Superior Court recognized a new tort for family violence, awarding significant damages to the claimant. This tort captures long-term patterns of coercive and controlling behavior that may not be fully addressed by existing legal remedies. While this tort is still relatively new and its application is evolving, it represents an important step forward in addressing the complexities of family violence in common law relationships. It's also significant that this tort can be applied to common law spouses, further emphasizing the need for careful consideration of the unique dynamics in these relationships. As we've discussed today, common law separations involve a host of complex issues, from defining who qualifies as a spouse to navigating property claims and understanding the potential for tort claims. These issues are highly fact-specific, and outcomes can vary widely depending on the circumstances of each case. If you're facing a common law separation or have questions about your rights, it's crucial to seek legal advice tailored to your situation. The laws in Ontario are nuanced, and having the right legal guidance can make all the difference. Thank you for joining me on the Divorce Lawyers podcast. I hope you found today's discussion insightful. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes where we delve into various aspects of family and divorce law in Ontario. Until next time, take care and remember that informed decisions are empowered decisions.